Welcome to another segment of LeaderLINK, linking members with mentors to learn, achieve, and succeed. I am Hunter Sparrow and have the pleasure of serving as your Northwest Region Vice President this year. I'm excited to announce today we have the fourth place winners of Community Service Project at NLC in Atlanta from Lynden FBLA. We have Mason Naminga, Jaspreet Cathcart, Brady Wakasuki joining us to discuss all things chapter project events. But before we start diving deep in that topic, can you all please tell us a little about yourself and why you guys joined FBLA?
Hi, I'm Jaspreet Katkar, and I joined FBLA because, well, Mason here, he's been FBLA since freshman year, and he told me that I had to do it, and he told me that I get to dress up, so I was like, I'm in.
My name is Mason Naminga, and I joined FBLA just because I wanted a way to get involved, and some of my friends were doing it as well, and I'm really glad that I did.
Yep, and I'm Brady Wakatsuki, and I originally joined because my brother was a member, but then I kind of got to know the club a little bit more, Mason, Jaspreet, Cooper, and it was just overall a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to hear that you guys got a positive start in FBLA and you all encouraged kind of each other, got encouragement from other people to join. So going into our first question about chapter projects. So what sparked your interest in a chapter project event originally?
I would say the first thing that really sparked our interest was the ability that we can involve all of our members into one thing that was really collective and also something that we could work towards together. So that was my favorite part of it, is getting to work behind the scenes, putting together the reports and doing that kind of back end stuff while handing it off to the members to really do the more communicated things like
Yeah.
putting together craft kits and the example of our community service project last year.
It was really just a chapter bonding thing,
Yeah.
so.
So so as we know, these chapter project events, they take a lot of time and commitment to go into. So what should members interested in these projects be prepared for and how much is the commitment exactly?
So members that are involved should be prepared for uh, setting due dates and accomplishing what they need to accomplish by those due dates and having a timeline and a schedule. That's really important. And the commitment, it is a lot, but it's really important that you don't push it till the very end. Like, you don't want to put it off at all. Make sure you're starting as soon as you can, and then it's just fun for everyone to do if you are not pushing it till the very end, putting it off.
Yeah, and just to build off that, if you pick something that you're really passionate about, it becomes less of a chore and more of a fun activity with all your friends. So if you just pick something that you're passionate about, it really makes the time commitment more worth it.
And kind of for the more logistical side, I would really recommend getting a spreadsheet and plopping in due dates and the people that are assigned to those tasks so you can delegate things effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really important part of these chapter projects event and presentations too, is number one, having fun with it, obviously. You want to have fun during the presentation and also the work that you're putting in the presentation. I also think what you guys said, time management, especially with long-term projects, is definitely a big key factor. So moving on to our next question. So what goes into the planning of a chapter project and how did you guys prepare for community service project and other chapter project events you guys have done within your chapter?
Well, so to begin with, the officer team kind of got together and we brainstormed what we wanted to do for our community service project. And then we kind of had a couple of chapter meetings and decided what the entire chapter wanted to be involved in, because we didn't want it to be something that just the community service coordinator wanted to do, but rather something that the entire chapter would be interested in. So we kind of started off there, picking a project that everyone would want to do. And then from there, just starting to build a plan of events that we wanted to do and everything that we wanted to accomplish, just going up from there.
And for chapter projects, the majority of the stuff happens before our FBLA year starts with our officer training, when we start to put together our speakers for the year, how we're going to work on fundraising, and all of those bits and pieces that go into creating a good chapter report.
So kind of filtering into what you guys just talked about. So like you said, the reports. So what goes into writing these reports and what specifically goes into reports? Like the page requirement, what you guys did that kind of help, strategies, tips, that kind of stuff.
So what's helpful is making sure that you're following the rubric to a T, because the requirements for different chapter projects is going to be different. So definitely follow the rubric to a T. Go into your Word doc or whatever you're using to type up your report and organize everything like the rubric wants you to. So let's say they want you to talk about research first. So right after you've done your research in real life time, make sure that you're jotting it down on your Word doc or whatever you're using, because you don't want to put it off and forget everything that you've done, and really make sure that you're using formal language and getting it reviewed by as many people as you can.
The kind of like workflow that I developed over the past 2 reports that I've written, and then also community service that I did with Jaspreet last year, was I started off by taking the rubric and taking all of those criteria, putting it into a document, filling stuff in, and then kind of putting tentatively where it was going in the report. Then after I finished that step, I went through, wrote the report, and then finally put it into a more formal document with the correct FBLA formatting.
Absolutely. So moving on to like our next question, this kind of focuses more on like the presentation side of it. So how did you guys make the design of your presentation unique?
Well, we knew that we wanted to make our presentation different and not blend in with the other people. So we made sure that we used a lot of artistic elements to it, make sure we had a lot of pictures, a lot of color, and making sure it wasn't like, it didn't read like a book, rather like an interesting report or like a timeline of events almost. That was really important.
Yeah, and I don't know how top secret this is or if we're supposed to say this, but we had like interactive things that we could give to the judges and they could actually physically hold, which I think really like helps them get a grasp of the impact you made rather than just saying it through words.
And also the last thing is really connect with your judge when you're giving your presentation. Don't have it be standing in front of them, just like reading off of a script. Make sure to interact with them and share your story because it's something you've invested so much of your time into.
Yeah, I think you guys touched on something really important. That's interacting with your judges. So whether that be with items to interact with them or just talking and being like real with them and being like, just showing like your passion for your project and your passion for whatever you're presenting. I feel like that's a really important aspect into like FBLA competing specifically for all the topics. So moving on to our next question, what are your tips for presenting a chapter event? So when you're in the room, you're in front of the judge, like what goes to your mind? What are your tips for like executing that presentation?
So for presenting when you're in the room with the judges, well, first off, you want to be really loud. Make sure your voice projects because, well, at nationals, our first round is in basically a basement with like hundreds of other people,
Yeah.
and you can't even hear your partner standing next to you. So you got to make sure that you're really loud and confident, and definitely try not to sound scripty, like you're reading off of a script. You don't want to sound like that. To sound like you're like talking to, a friend. You're just explaining what you did to a friend.
Yeah. This is kind of more nitpicky, but when you're standing there, it's easy when you get nervous just to kind of be stiff and just
Like swaying
yeah.
almost back and forth.
sway back and
Don't
forth.
do that.
If you're just more casual, like you're a human being, they're human beings. If you just like talk like you actually like know the project, that really helps.
Mhm.
And then the final thing, practice, practice, practice. The amount of times we practice, like I could probably recite the presentation off the top of my head right now.
Yep.
That totally helps with your confidence when giving that presentation.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like we, sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, go ahead.
So at the hotel in Atlanta, we like found random people that would be willing to sit down with us that we could present to. That was really helpful, like presenting to just random people off the street, your friends, your chapter, like literally anyone. And that's what's gonna help you get the nerves off and get more real.
Yeah, presenting in front of people you don't know is like the best way to kind of get that full like nervous experience that you'll get on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you guys touched on another important aspect of like just competing is like be real with the judges, know your presentation, and then like what Mason said, practice, practice, practice. Like I feel like that's a key to like whether you're competing a chapter project event, whether you're competing in a test, whether you're competing in a regular presentation, practice, practice, practice. Study those Quizlets, study your project, present to other people. Like I feel like that's like the key to success, especially in our version of competitive events. So moving on to our next question is kind of focusing on judges and interacting with them. So how did you guys like prepare for the Q&A time with judges? And like what went through your mind like on the like while you're in the spot kind of when they're asking those questions, like how did you handle them?
That's a really good thing to consider is that's something that's very unknown in the moment. You don't know what they're going to ask. It's not something that you can particularly practice beforehand. Other than having people, like when we had strangers watch our presentation, have them ask really analytical questions that they think a judge might want to know, something that's beyond the surface of just like how much your project cost. We had one judge ask us, if we could monetize off of our community service project in the future. So that's something that we weren't prepared for, but we had to come up with an answer kind of on the fly. So really have that like flow between your team members, almost to the point where you can like read each other's thoughts and you can get that good answer going for the judge.
And how you get that flow is by practicing together a lot. That's really the only way to get that flow down. And also knowing like everything that went behind the scenes for your project is really helpful when you're answering the questions. So like for chapter events, you'll have a bunch of people doing like a bunch of different tasks, but making sure that the people that are presenting the project know everything that went into it so that they're able to answer any questions that may come up.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like when you're in the room and you're kind of on your feet, like we know, like when the judges are asking those questions, you sometimes never know what's going to be next. So definitely thinking of ways for all the viewers watching this, thinking of ways of like thinking deep and thinking like, what would a judge ask, and thinking like those essential questions and kind of like getting those kind of in your brain and ready to like think on your feet. So for our last question of the day, so lastly, for fun, what are your guys' favorite colors and why?
Start us off. There's only one right answer. It's blue. Blue is by far the superior color. You can't go wrong. Blue could be a house. It could be the sky's blue. Clothes look good in blue. It's obvious.
I can't argue. I agree.
I was gonna say green, but
Sorry.
Oh,
I see. I'm like split. I like navy blue and like forest green. Like
I like
those-
forest
yeah,
too.
for-
Yeah.
forest-
forest green.
I like the darker palette of those colors. Like it's
Mhm.
either dark or pastels. Like I can't do like neons. If you know
Yeah,
what I mean.
Oh, no
no
neons, no neons.
Neons, yeah. So obviously, to conclude, thank you so much, Lynden FBLA, for joining me on this interview. Washington, we can't wait to see you next time on LeaderLINK. Make sure to follow at WAFBLA on Instagram to stay connected on all of our segments. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.